So, welcome to this is week 39 of the Global Summit events. It's the fourth in 2024. And today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. This idea of, relationships and, how it can be used to feel better. And so I just like to go around and open up the conversation. I love that we started off this conversation about healing because there at this time of year there's this cold going around worldwide, and and so people are talking about the different remedies that we have, and so this is kind of about sharing that same wisdom. Each one of us has a little bit of an idea of what is better and what is more helpful, how we can heal. And so our emotional side is much the same as our physical side. So, Will, do you want to go ahead and lead the expectations of today?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so welcome everybody. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. The Mastering Our Feelings Using Emotional Intelligence discussion. And shot Stephen a message yesterday to say that this discussion couldn't have come at a better time for me. Because there's been a little bit of triggering stuff around me that sort of took me back and stripped me back to my raw self that I was that fateful evening in 2020. And so it took me a while to look at gaining my emotional intelligence, regaining my emotional intelligence. But today I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody else what their perspective of emotional intelligence is and what they are hoping to get out of it. So I'm going to spin the dial of Zoom and let's see who comes up first. Jan, what would you like to get, or what's your expectation out of today's discussion?
I think I'm just very open. I just want to listen and hear what people have to say regarding emotional intelligence. I think I am quite what I would label as emotionally aware. And I don't know if that somehow differs than emotional intelligence.
Thanks, Jan. Emotional awareness compared to emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I think they go hand in hand. I
Okay.
think they go completely hand in hand on that, just as a quick answer. But I'm sure we could dive into that as a question a bit later. I'm not sure if anyone, if Stephen or Patty have any questions they want to put forward a bit later. But Mahima, welcome. We haven't seen you for a while, and I do apologize for not sending you the link. But what would you like to get out of today? You muted, Mahima. You're still muted. Can I unmute you? You there? No.
Sorry,
there
Will.
you go. That's okay.
Different
Thanks, mate.
tech stuff. What do I want to get out of it? Emotional intelligence. Actually, learning and sharing. I think what Jan said is I feel I'm emotionally aware, uh, aware of my own emotions and other people's emotions. But it'd be great to hear because it can be interpreted the way you see it. So it'd be good to hear how people put emotional intelligence, emotional awareness in their own life and other people's lives.
That's quite important, Mahima. And Paul, what would you like to get out of today?
Very well, did you say Paul? I just
Yes, I did have
said Paul. I will. I think Jan and Mahima said it. Yeah, just it's an interesting subject, and just want to hear what wisdom gets shared, and learn from that.
Okay, thanks, Paul. and true.
Yeah, wisdom shared, explore what it really is. And because I think by exploring and philosophizing on it, we figure out more. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks, true. And so hard. You're muted. There we go.
My understanding, like as Jane and Mahima said, being self-aware, but a thought that came when Jane was talking is, I think, self-regulate. So, we all go through situation in our lives, and we can sometimes self-regulate, sometimes we can't self-regulate, and that's what I think is what emotional intelligence. And of course, I want to hear from all of you and learn from you.
Thanks, Simon. And Maureen.
Very similar. I'm curious to learn what other people understand is emotional intelligence. I have my own understanding and perspective, studying it and being certified in it. So I'm curious to know what others understand as emotional intelligence for them, and yeah, what they have learned.
And Patty, what would you like to get out of today?
I think in this group, I think we are all self-aware about our emotions. And for me, it's about how do you deal with it? Because, you can be aware of being triggered and you can put a name to that emotion. But then the next step, there are several tools to handle an emotion. I'm curious about each method to do that.
Thanks, Patty. And Stephen, what would you like to get out of today?
So I love the awareness that people are looking externally for wisdom rather than this need of offering the solution. And I think this is one of the areas that is not very defined. So what I'd like to get out of today is just a clear understanding of how we can learn and grow in this skill, right? How can we develop it, or even maybe teach it to others?
Thanks, Stephen. For me, like I said before, was getting a few other tips and that sort of thing on what everyone else thinks that is the best way to enlighten themselves in their emotional intelligence when they're battling their they're mastering the feelings towards something. And I alluded before to a situation, and I think what I think about, I think back today, is what I had to sort of go through yesterday was actually put myself through my own conflict resolution and actually actively listen to what my internal voice was actually saying about this situation so that I could actually digest it all and go, that's why I feel this way. It's because of this, this, and this. Okay, you'll be fine. You'll get over it. So and managing that stress that was brought on by it. Because I was in a meeting on Monday and someone turned to me and said, "You're so distant." And I'm like, I could hear them going, but that was it. That was it, because I was in that I hadn't managed the stress of everything else that had sort of occurred back before. So Stephen, have you got some questions for today?
I do, yeah. So I've got that. And then I'm going to move this. Let's see. Let's see if I can figure this one out. All right. So I've got
So
that.
I think it's the self-regulation. I had to learn to self-regulate and learn to control the impulses to, comfort eat or just go to the pub and sink a few pints, that kind of thing. And so, I had to sort of manage the self-regulate, manage the stress, and then just resolve my own inner conflict. And got up this morning and I went, hey, great. I feel fantastic again. I feel me again. Not like a little person wandering around like a zombie for a few days.
So I've got the questions in the breakout room. Thanks for your patience while I was pulling that together. I finally figured out how to have people not selected in the breakout room. So if you want to have people in the main session, you click on the little number next to the breakout room. So it'll have like little number 2 or 3 in the room, and you can uncheck people and have them remain in the main room. New thing I learned. Will said we could do it, and I had no idea how. So now you all know.
Oh, now you know my trick, David.
I know. Anybody else knows any Zoom tricks, please share. So the 2 questions, it's an A/B selection. We're gonna have just about 6 or 7 minutes, about 7 minutes. So it'll be very brief, but here are the questions. So the first one is, how can we choose some daily practices or habits to help enhance one's emotional intelligence? So what can we practice? And the second one would, how can someone become more aware of their own emotions or in the emotions of others? So one is, what can we do? And then the other one is what can we be more aware of as far as related to emotions? You can choose either question. We're not going to have really time to go through both of them. And when we come back, I'm going to ask, each one of you which question you chose and if there was a takeaway from that. So enjoy, and I'm going to open all the rooms. It's going to go quick, so you're going to be quizzed at the end. So I have to say that I actually specifically chose the 2 of you. I know we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to leave it up to random chance, but I wanted to hear the wisdom, and especially, Maureen, since you have studied this area and it's something of interest to you. And you, Paul, you always bring kind of an insight into this realm. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, Maureen. Is this the right question we should be asking?
Yes, absolutely. Regulation. Remind me of the exact question again.
So
'Cause I
the one is what can we do to enhance our emotional intelligence?
Okay.
How can we become better at being emotionally intelligent? And
my approach is quite different because I've studied Dr. Goleman, who wrote a book on emotional intelligence, and he comes from a more head space, logic, linear, relations, 4 different categories, where I took it in a completely different path, where I really started to listen to my body. And I was forced to listen to my body because I had so much physical disease over my lifetime that my body was screaming at me. So I went into the research where I leaned towards Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's the microbiologist, where he says that we can change the expression of our genes. I lean towards Dr. Christian Northrup, who in her book, Goddesses Never Age, says that we stuff our emotions in the connective tissue. I was diagnosed with a connective tissue disorder, and it was a huge aha moment for me. So I started listening to my body, getting out of my head, listening to my heart, and listening to my gut, and using those 3 brains as a system in which I can truly start to listen to what's going on within me and without me, out externally. So for me, it's just a matter of, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What is my gut telling me? So really connecting with my whole being.
I love that. And how about for you, Paul? And you can answer either one, but either how can you become more emotionally intelligent? How can you enhance that, or how can you become more aware of your own emotions and that of others?
I can I reverse it slightly?
Yeah.
I tell you how. So on the weekend, I love supplements. So I was experimenting with adding L-theanine into my regime. I have certain supplements I take. quite fastidious about that. And I was reading something about L-theanine. It's a component of green tea, should be good for you. Anyway, so I took some. And over 3 days, I became emotionally dumb. Like on the weekend, I realized I had completely disconnected emotionally. I was just enjoying this numb space. I mean, Tony, my husband, was saying to me, "What's going on with you?" And I just looked at him like, I thought, there is just no connection here. No connection to how he's feeling, no connection to, and it's like, and so when this talk came up, it was so fascinating, having juxtaposed with that space I was in on the weekend. So like Sunday, I said to myself, "You're not taking that again. Let's see how long it takes for your emotions to return." It took the whole day so I took it the morning before 250 milligrams and for a few days in the week. And that afternoon, I was getting back in my body and I was connecting again from my heart space. There was like, it's connected for me. I'm getting chills just talking about it. So it's like, for me, there's like Maureen's talking about Goldberg, because I think he talks about when you have your emotional intelligence refer to it's being depressed, or you don't refer to yourself as I'm being depressed or I'm having an emotion. You say it's having an emotion. So that was me realizing that, well, I have some emotional intelligence because where I don't have it, the self-awareness was there to go, wow, you've just shut yourself down. And that was quite a strange way of being for me. And then the other thing I've been doing over the last few months is I've headed over to Mind Valley, and it highlighted to me during coaching certain people last year that I have just neglected my energy work, like the stuff that I love, quantum energy, stuff Maureen was talking about with Bruce Lipton, epigenetics, and just how all these things connect. And I just had, so that and those meditations and mindfulness practices and self-awareness practices have just been amazing and supercharging my EQ again. So energy work for me, and realizing that you can shut it down. And then I just thought that came up as, wow, how difficult is this I mean, I've been like so many, I've been on that, roller coaster ride with antidepressants. This was maybe the last time I took one was 18 years ago. And I was thinking, how are people dealing with all this and there's no emotions? Because sometimes you have to go into those emotions to get out of the emotions. And if you can't and you're shut down, it's so difficult. Anyway,
Right.
that's
Well, you're speaking such wisdom there, because it's like if you can make it through the emotion, there's such an immense growth that can occur. It's not easy, right? I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but if you can do that, the transformation that will come to you, the awareness that will come to you, the emotional intelligence that will come to you, you can't quantify. I mean, it changes your identity of self, and it realizes how powerful we are to take control of our human experience and to set that tone. We can be in the midst of suffering and we don't have to suffer. Right? We can change our state of being by just exerting that will of I'm not going to, it's not even a force of I'm not going to. It's just realizing that we're in control of our own body and that we can have an influence on the way that we feel, and that it's a choice. I choose to feel a certain way. And for like myself, I'm on that highly sensitive scale. So I feel emotions deeply. I feel food deeply, right? Give me a chocolate bar. It's like when I was a kid, I'd eat a whole bag of M&Ms, and the thing is that chemistry, while powerful, also had that negative effect of, when emotions got deep, they got deep. So welcome back,
we're just
everybody.
touching the points, Steve, and then we had to come to the main room.
But that gets us thinking quick. This is the turbo sections. So
Turbo, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit too
there's
turbo.
two turbo in 6 minutes. Well, but the thing is with emotional intelligence, there's so much we can talk about, because this impacts our life, it impacts relationships, it impacts our career. I mean, this is like, we don't really teach this, but it's like, this is the quality of life. And And so, and even within, we still have 2 questions. Do you want more time on the next one?
We could have had 2 more minutes for you, Stephen, because you haven't finished yet.
It's okay. It's okay. I can speak 2 minutes or 20 minutes with no problem at all. All right, so we're going to recreate the rooms. So, so the next phase is the first phase was kind of on the awareness scale. The next 2 questions are going to be on the growth scale. So the first question, and again, you can choose which one you want, and I'm going to change the timing so it's not 7 minutes. It'll be, should we do? You want 2 more minutes or?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do 9 minutes on the next
So
one.
while you're doing that, Stephen, so in the chat, we have, what challenges have you faced when trying to improve your emotional intelligence and how did you overcome them? And or the other question is, can you share a personal growth story where increased emotional intelligence played a significant role? I just think I answered that question with Trude in our first breakout room. So that, yeah, so are you ready, Stephen?
So I think I might have the same rooms. Let me do recreate. We'll do 3
So
rooms.
yeah, so
Recreate.
we've all faced challenges recently. So we've just been, as a global community, we've just been probably through one of the most challenging times of our lives. So I'm sure we've got stories or things that we've had to use in the last few years to help us through an uncontrolled situation or no control over our lives. So yeah, enjoy. And I think it's going to be 8 minutes, 8 minutes and 53 seconds. So we'll see you when you're on the other side.
And it is Jan and Patty here in the main room with me. So we go through these, these are quick, right? It's like
Yeah, we weren't ready to come back. We were in the last room together, and the 2 of us were like, can't we stay?
I know. And it's like and this is what I love about the Wellness Wednesdays. We do pack a lot into a short time. And this is, that connection. Maybe it'll prompt some discussions outside, but it's a beautiful opportunity to raise some questions and to think about them. So how about, who would like to start? What challenges have you faced when trying to improve your emotional intelligence, and how did you overcome those challenges? Or did you have a time when emotional intelligence played a significant role in, in how you felt or how you grew in that during that challenge?
I mean, I can share a challenge. I think my biggest challenge was I grew up in a house where I was told constantly, you shouldn't feel like that. Like, those were common words. You shouldn't feel like that. And I remember coming to like realizing how dumb that was, because that was how I felt. It was like this light bulb that went off saying, that's a really dumb thing to say, because you feel like that's how I felt. And telling me that I shouldn't feel that way, it was just like, I mean, I always felt like I was the only one in the world who felt like I did, whatever it was, because nothing was shared. So that was probably my biggest challenge. And I think just, with a lot of inner work, realizing that it was really, I had every right to feel the way I felt for whatever reason. Maybe it wasn't, rational, or maybe it wasn't, but I had every right to feel it and then figure out that it was not rational. But that whole idea of not feeling. So that was probably my biggest challenge.
And if I may ask, how do you, because I think you well, I assume sometimes it still happens to you, that you feel something and then like an automatic response, like, oh, I shouldn't feel like that,
I
right?
think, yeah. But I think the next thought in my head is then I have every right to feel like this.
Yeah.
Like, as a human being, as a whatever, as a functioning person, I have every right to feel like that. And then I kind of go through, maybe I sit with the emotion and kind of see where it is in my body, or I or I, you know, or I, you know, Trude and I mean, Patty and I were talking about in the previous room that I can't let my brain get too into it sometimes. Like I have to get like really spacious because otherwise I start to overanalyze it. And so I have to kind of put my brain on pause a little bit and then sit with it and realize, you know, just feel it, see where it is, sometimes process it through that way and breathe through it as opposed to kind of trying to figure it out so much.
You know, that it's an interesting because we go through this growth and awareness. So for myself, you know, my question was, I had these thoughts that were linked into catastrophic projections, right? And the more that I thought about it, the more anxious I became. And I didn't know what was coming, but I could project some dire outcomes in the future. And I became so fearful and so nervous and so betrayed by feeling that someone could lie or cheat or be unjust. And it's like, and it was so unnecessary, right? It was like my thought was they could have just talked to me, right? They didn't have to go through this level of causing pain. And I just had to set that off to the side. And the areas that I grew in emotional intelligence was to realize that, you know, boundary setting, I didn't have boundaries. I can remember asking the question, how could I let somebody treat me so poorly for so many years and think it was okay? And then I realized, oh, I had this self-worth or this self-love, you know, quandary or question that I wasn't worthy of love, you know. And I remember yelling to my apartment, I'm lovable. My neighbors probably thought I was crazy, but I was yelling it. And we have to change that narrative in our minds, and that critical self-talk is sometimes horrific. And so it's about retraining and reframing that very thing that defines our existence. And if we can do that, we can actually change it in a way that's quite positive. So it's a learning process. We don't start off, you know, we're like the little kids with the superheroes, right? It's like we don't start off running, we start off crawling. You know, we make mistakes, we fall down, and then slowly we get better. And even with like boundaries, at first we set boundaries to heal. And then once we are healed, we don't need the boundaries anymore. It's like somebody tramples on our stuff. You know, it's like, okay, I wouldn't do that. It's not kind of you to do that, but I'm not going to judge you. I just view that either you are not aware, you don't care, or there's something else, but it doesn't impact my value. It doesn't impact who I am. So that's what was my experience with that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think it sums also a bit up what I was talking with Jan previously about, you know, the compassion for yourself and um, show empathy to yourself. You know, it's like Jan said, it's okay to feel what you feel, but also not only setting boundaries towards others, but also setting boundaries for yourself. You know, like having the tools, you know, to for instance, go outside in nature or have the other days I learned from someone to have a mentally or literal thought and to put that emotion in and you know at the end of the day tackle it then, you know, give yourself space. And I think it's emotional intelligence is really connected to that self-love and and help yourself, you know, setting boundaries for yourself to not spiral down into those anxious feelings or anger or frustration. Or for me, my biggest challenge is patience. I don't have it. I just don't have it. I'm like, I want to know everything now. I want to learn everything now. I have that since I was little. I remember when I had to go to the first day of school where you teach how to write and read. I was crying the night before, and my mother said, "What's wrong? You will learn new friends." And, yeah, but I can't write and I can't read. You will learn it there, and I need to remind myself that it's okay that you don't know everything and that you need to learn things and that not everybody is at the same level as you and you know everybody is at its own journey. And so, yeah, I can get frustrated quickly. So for me, it's about being aware of that, and say, wait, take a step back, and if you have the time, address it, find out where that frustration is from. If you don't have it because you're in a conversation or something else, put it on a shelf for later. Just take a breathe and continue. So for me, it's not only about the boundaries towards others, but also the boundaries for yourself.
That's beautifully said, and there was a thought that I had, and then it vanished. It's like the butterfly. It's the idea that we think that we're self-aware, or we think that we're emotionally intelligent, and then something will come along, and then it's like, okay, no, we're not. But it's this realization that we grow, right? And it's like, even when we think we have it, something will come along and it will challenge us to the next level, or we'll be retested, and it's okay, right? We won't act to the level that we thought we should act, or behave the way that we thought we should, but we'll just accept it gracefully, and then realize that um, we get better over time. Welcome back again, another little whirlwind experience. So now it's going to be talking about, all right, how can we use emotional intelligence? And we can balance it out in a couple different places by a show of hands, or let's do it in the chat. We have the area of relationships. Where do we want to talk about emotional intelligence and how it can impact our life? Relationships, workplace, or personal life? So for relationships, emotional intelligence and relationships, 2 for talking about emotional intelligence in workplace, or 3, emotional intelligence or personal life. So 1, 2, or 3 in the chat. Paul is like, whatever the majority goes with.
We know, Paul, we know.
What what was the question?
So it's like,
I
what
knew you were
area
going to say that,
do we
Will.
want to focus on? Do we want to focus on talking about personal intelligence in relationships, in workplace, or in personal life? And so we've got,
Stephen, can we just do relationships in general? Because we have relationships in the workplace and we have personal relationships, and yeah, they cross over in different ways. I think just relationships in general.
I was just going to say, personal relationships, because personal relationships covers everything.
all right.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah, we can't cover that's a good way of saying it, true.
so we'll say, all right, I just added coworkers or partners in here. So the 2 questions are, it's how can we use this to improve our relationships, right? How do we use emotional intelligence to improve our relationships? And then the next one is, again, choose A, B. Think of a time when understanding someone else's emotions helped you resolve a conflict. So the first one is, how can this improve your relationships? And the second one, how can it help resolve conflict? And we will recreate the breakout rooms.
I'm doing them, Stephen.
Okay. Did I just mess you up?
No, I'm just beating you to it because
So I haven't been asking anybody while we're doing that. What do you think so far? I mean, what has been your takeaway? I'm going to start with you, Paul. You're making notes, so I always love that when I see somebody taking notes.
I just love it. It was like with you and with Maureen was an lovely discussion, and it was Soham, and it's just like that thing that came up with Soham again is like, it's just just to be vulnerable. I mean, it's just like, I would usually come, and when I first started going online and seeing people, it's like, ooh, I can't let people see me. Well, I've come to accept myself for who I am. And if this is me and you can't accept me, then that's fine. But I have to accept myself, and I've grown that self-awareness in this space. So yeah, So I love the talk.
So, I mean,
As you
it's
can hear from my voice, I'm excited.
yeah, and it's lovely, but we are a unique crowd, right? It's like not all communities are welcoming, authentic. They're not real, right? They're not strong. The thing is we can be vulnerable because we've healed. We're in a place of strength. We don't need to pretend to be something that we're not. And I think once you're in that space, you're joining the people that have actually succeeded in life because you drop this facade and you actually step into life being who you are. So how about for you, Sonia? What was your experience so far?
Did you ask me, Stephen?
I did.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I like Paul. I think and I agree with you, Stephen, that with this community, we've actually built a relationship, and there is this, this this energy in this community that we allow each other to be vulnerable and accept each other as we are. And I've been in other sort of platforms, and no, I can't be how I am here there, because it's not in the same format. um, so I am very happy to be part of this community where I can show my vulnerability and I can be who I am. And I know any of you will, if I am actually feeling down, I know I can go to any of you and talk to you. And I know I'm going to get that support that I feel I need at that time.
I love that. And that's the power of an empathic community. So, does anyone else want to volunteer? I want to pick on all, I want to ask all of you, but I'll refrain. Would anybody like to volunteer and share some words of wisdom? Trude, beautiful bread. I'll ask you. You have to be happy with the smell of fresh bread.
I'm looking forward to cutting into it. Peanut butter. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, who needs emotional intelligence when you have fresh bread? All right, so we're ready to go. So thank you for being here. Oh, and the other thing that I wanted to add with the group is, this is something that we don't necessarily learn when we're in school. Every family has a different level of emotional intelligence, and we can by as a group, by modeling this, we actually have the biggest influence on other people because they start learning how to model as well. So there's a group dynamic that happens when you have two or three people in a group start repeating in a pattern. Other people will understand and they'll catch on much faster than other ways. And it's because we're teaching ourselves like we're children again. And that's where the greatest strength, because we have so many people here that are emotionally intelligent, self-aware, and that modeling is by far the biggest benefit. So, each one of you is the benefit to this community. So thank you for what you do. Are the rooms open, or
They're about to open. They're going to open now.
Perfect.
And Mahima, you're in the main room with Stephen.
All right, so we should be back in about 9 minutes.
I'll go and join one of the rooms.
Okay. So perfect. Mahima, how are you, my friend? You're muted. You're still muted. I can't hear you.
I was talking to myself. I was saying I'm feeling a bit chilly, so I decided to look after myself and get even sitting here in a warm place, sit with all my warm gear on.
Yeah, I raised the temperature of my house almost a degree Celsius, and I put my infrared heater on, and that's unusual for me, but it's like my temperature got lowered, and now my body's reabsorbing that heat to heal. So
yeah,
warm, my friend, if you have a fireplace in front of it, or if you have
I know.
warm,
It's just I've just been really, yeah, exactly. just looking after the body really, because I fell a couple of weeks ago, and now the after effect of it, I can feel it on my right hand side of the body. And I was wondering what's happened. So I went to see the doctor, and they're going to do ultrasound and all this and the other. And my neck is not, there's an impingement of nerve. To cut a long story short, basically it's time to say, look after yourself.
And our emotions can have an impact, because I find myself,
Yes.
if I've got too much emotion going on, sometimes I'll be stressed and I'll have it in my neck.
Yes.
Like, okay, time for a massage.
Same thing here, Steve. I think too much frustrations and annoyance has got in the way of situations. So yes, I've booked a massage on Friday from 2 to 5 to,
So
do these loving things.
I know.
So yeah, so
Find a good
what
person.
is
They're
your,
great. Go ahead.
yeah, what was your question, the answer on the question you posed? What were you
There's
thinking?
there's a couple of them. So what I was thinking is that, like, in regards to relationships, how can emotional intelligence, one, help avoid conflicts, but two, aid in relationships. And I always had this, since I had my epiphany that two people could have completely diametrically opposing views on something, right? This truth is completely opposite of this truth, but they're still true for each of them. It just, all of a sudden, my worldview just kind of like evaporated, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like huge, because I realized that truth is based in someone's perception, and we have this bias, and we can frame that. And also, being sensitive, I realized that anybody's emotion's valid, right? Whatever you're feeling, it doesn't matter what it is, it's you're feeling it. So when it came down to, like, emotions and relationships, it's like I would never challenge the emotion. I wouldn't even challenge if the person laid blame on me for the emotion. I just said, okay, this is what you're feeling. It's valid for you. Um, how can I be supportive to you in this, navigating this, and where do we want to go? And this is even pre-coaching, that I had that epiphany that, all right, what is it that we want here, right? It's like, because there's been so many times where, like, I'm a conflict avoider, and I would, like, I don't like to say things. I don't like to get angry. So I would, like, walk around the block when I was angry. Well, my daughter's mother, she was a volatile, arguer. And what I realized is my style and her style were like oil and water. That I was quiet, the less validated or heard she felt. And so she would escalate. And so my behavior was completely opposite of that. Did we lose somebody? I heard somebody drop.
Oh,
So you're
Sorry,
muted.
I wasn't sure if it was me or if it, Patty. And then she dropped and I stayed, and I went, well, it's not me. So I left the room. Sorry to interrupt your conversation.
No, don't worry.
no.
So welcome. So we're just having the conversation. So I was talking about all emotions are valid. It's difficult when somebody blames you for emotions, because if you disagree with them, but how do you balance honoring their emotion, but trying to shift it in a positive, constructive method? And then the last one was, when you're conveying an emotion, the words don't always match the facts of the case, right? So it's like you're trying to convey something beyond, the words just don't fit. So that's
Yeah, and that's a good that's a really good question. So they absolutely, maybe give them the space to explain that emotion or that feeling, allow them to come to their own conclusion of really understanding what they've said or done.
I'm going to move you back, Maureen, because
Oh, she's back.
she's back. Yeah. So
Yay. Thank you.
are you there? All right. So how do I get you? So click on the breakout rooms and click join.
Where do I click on breakout
Click on
rooms?
breakout rooms at the bottom under more.
Join breakout rooms. Join
And
break. Oh, thank you.
room
I just
two.
learned something new. Thanks.
I just didn't want Patty to be feeling alone.
No, that's good. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's being aware. I mean, relationships, whether it's at work or at home or with other people, and it can be quite, well, it is challenging if your energies are not the same. And I've noticed that because we're in the doing mode all the time, you're doing this and doing that. We don't resonate with each other, whoever that, they've got a different agenda, you've got a different agenda, whether it's in personal life or professional life. So what happens, the two energies are not coming in line. And then it can be very positive that, even though the two energies are different, you're still understanding, you're still empathetic, you still want to deliver, you want to go with it. Or when the two energies are not working together, I think there's a reason behind it, that it's teaching you something. That's if you want to take that from my experience. Do I want to take that experience? Do I want to learn from it? If I can't do anything with that person, not that I want to, but if that other person is not aware of what I'm aware of in terms of energies and that, then how can I do it? So it's about giving them that space, I suppose. But obviously, you've got to be realistic as well, even in personal life and professional life. If you're being bullied and harassed and all that, there is a limit to it. There is that spiritual context and consciousness of saying everybody's playing their part, everybody's unique, everybody's doing X, Y, and Z, but not being a baboon and not being a fool to just be in that, because you've got to have your self-respect and you've got to move away and say, thanks very much. I've done my best. I've learned things, but it's not working out. Or whatever that is.
We have a little battle of wills, right? It's like,
Yeah.
something seems so clear to you and somebody else just, no, and they're going to do
Get it.
And even if they're doing, like, they might be doing something that you disagree with, or it triggers us. And it's like, this is where the emotional intelligence is. My grandson did this to me the other day. I said, don't go out and play in the mud,
Yeah.
turn my head to fit, I was cooking the dinner. And it's like, it's like, James, where did you go? I look out back. It had been raining for 2 weeks, and it's like tremendous amounts of rain. And he's right in the middle of this huge mud puddle, brand new shoes on. And it's like, oh, this mom's gonna kill me, right? It's like, James, I said don't go out into the mud. And it's like, and then the next thing was, don't get on the bed, or don't get on the couch with your muddy shoes. Take them off outside. And it's like,
And did he go on the couch?
next moment he's sitting on the couch and banging his feet against the couch, and I'm gone.
You should have said, do you go out? Do the opposite psychology. Do you go out and do you sit on the couch? Then the kid will think, wow, he's telling me to do that. Oh, I better not do it then.
It was just funny because it's like it triggered me, and it's like, and I was so upset, and it's like, and then I thought, you teach this mindfulness stuff. You gotta bring yourself down. And that's why I started. I said, okay, Steve, breathe.
Yeah. It does trigger us quite a bit, doesn't it?
It's such a simple
it can be
little
just simple things can trigger you. It triggers. I mean, I was just talking to, when I was in the group with Soham, I got triggered by this medication, this alternative medication is meant to be coming to my house on Thursday, last Friday, didn't come till Saturday. We weren't here. Okay, fine. So where's the card? The post guys leaves a card here so I can track it. And do you know what? At the moment, Steve, I'm really, really not into online stuff at the moment. I think we as human beings have become such pathetic animals that all we do is communicate through platforms and mediums like that. I am really wanting to not experience that. I've told the universe I want to talk to people. I want to see people, because first of all, my right hand is not 100%. So when you're texting and this, it's aggravating the shoulder and the neck. So that's just me, what I'm going through. The platforms are great, but everybody wants to talk to you by texting and emails. I'm thinking, give me a break. I don't really want this, and I'm saying to the universe, I don't want this. I want what's important.
What's funny is the Gen Zs would be like, oh, they called me, or they want to meet in person. How aggravating, right?
Yeah.
Text. So
Yeah. I get it. But even my generation, people older than me are texting me and not picking the phone up. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to be like you. No, I don't want to be like, no.
So we have the crowd back, and what a lovely discussion. It's hard to tell when you're on the phone. You have to swipe left to be able to see the
yes.
channel up for.
Everybody's back.
Yeah, it's lovely. So let's do the takeaways. Before we do that, everyone have a big smile. We always like to do our little family photo. And on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I think I got it. So
Family photo. Ooh,
I know. I mean, I really
I
enjoy
like that.
our little tribe of explorers here. And so let's do our takeaways. Go ahead, Paul.
Steve, before we do that, can I share something with you?
That's
It's been staring me right in the face the whole time. I'm sitting listening to Jan and I'm thinking, God, she just reminded me. I've got this program I'm doing at the moment, and one of the protocols that you do for the day is your love protocol. And these are all like about growing your emotional intelligence. And it's like act of kindness. So this is what you commit to every day: act of kindness, appreciate something or someone, begin the day with a smile, big hug with someone. So the first thing I do in the morning is I say to Tony, okay, it's time for my big hug. So give him a big hug and a big smile. So I've started those all well, deep love, listen with full presence, and like this is self-care. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. So this whole thing has been just so good for that.
Yeah, and it lifts your, I mean, it lifts your energy, right? It's like there's a transfer of feeling or energy. Some things drain you, and then other things fill you up a little bit. And this is one of those spaces where there's nothing asked of you. And it's like gratitude is one of those energies that leaves you feeling more, and that love is, and all of that. So thank you for that. I feel the vibration rising. So let's do the takeaways. Thank you for being here, and we'll start with you, Mahima. What's your takeaway from today?
I think the main thing for me is that we all have emotional intelligence, the way we perceive it ourselves, and we do use it. And we build on it from learning when things are not going so well and our emotions are all over the place. And when we reflect on it, we learn from that to develop stronger emotional intelligence. And obviously emotions are negative as well as positive. So what do I do with what am I doing with the positive ones too? Not just the ones that are coming to, the annoyance and the frustrations and all the other bits and pieces. So it's actually unpacking myself once I've learned something on this subject, because it's a really big subject. Being aware of it all the time in any situation, whether it's with family or personal relationships. But there is also, I think, as I was sharing with you, Steve, there are times that we talk about from a relationships perspective that I could look at it very positively and learn something from it. When you're in a working relationship, and if you're in a situation where you've been bullied or harassed and whatever, there are times you have to walk away from those things and not look at your emotional intelligence, not look at yourself as you're not being patient or compassionate, because there are times to be realistic.
Right. If you're
Does that make
wounded,
sense?
heal, right? You're wounded, you have
Yeah.
to heal. So we've got about 2 minutes left. Does anybody need to go at the top of the hour? If so, you can go next. Jan, what was your take? Thank you for that, Mahima. What was your takeaway, Jan?
I think it was more of an aha moment for me of just being more vulnerable.
I love that. And for you, Maureen, what was your takeaway?
Just remembering that everyone is on a different place in their life, or on a different path, and just remembering to really embrace the emotional intelligence that I have to help others in my life relationship to be okay with where they're at.
Thank you for that. And Truda, what was your takeaway from today?
That emotional intelligence is awareness and acceptance, which means that, how can you accept the guilt and shame in yourself also recognize it in others and not put that onto others.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you for that. And Patty, how about for you? What was your takeaway from today?
And for me, it's yeah, of course, the moment you are self-aware, that it also can be a motivator to set boundaries for yourself or to others. So how that you can use emotional intelligence as a skill and not only thinking about it in an analytical way.
I love that, especially the skill part. Paul, how about for you? What was your takeaway from today?
For me, it was just like, you ask what we came here for. And it's just, I just appreciate all the wisdom, everything everybody said. It just so resonated. So for me, my takeaway is just joy. It's like, I'm just filled with joy and all the feelings at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And Soham, what was your takeaway for today?
For me, emotional intelligence is knowing the self, and when we don't deal with the emotions which are coming up on in within ourselves, then it transparents into our body as a disease. So deal with it, work with it. Otherwise, you have to deal with the disease that is within that, that comes in your body, basically.
I can find that. So thank you for that. I was just trying to find the link there. And Will, how about for you? What was your takeaway?
Oh, there's been lots today. There's been lots today. It's been a fantastic discussion. Thank you, everybody. I think it's having with the emotional intelligence as you grow in it is having the empathy for yourself to allow yourself to be vulnerable, to feel everything that you need to feel. Because if you can't be those things with yourself, how can we promote emotional intelligence in others? And that's probably my biggest takeaway from the conversations I've had today is empathy, vulnerability, and being true to oneself.
That's lovely. And did we get everybody? I think we did, but the order moved, so it threw me off a little bit. So next week's going to be love and relationships, right? We're doing it the week before, and then appropriately on the 14th, when all the couples are out loving, we're going to talk about self-care, right? So it's that idea. On Monday, we have Monday Mindset that's starting up on LinkedIn. It'll be a LinkedIn audio. Please join us. It'll be an hour discussion on mindset. We're talking about emotional resilience. And the CEO from Citgo, he was CEO for 35 years, Jose, is going to be sharing his story. He was held captive in Venezuela for 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And so his story of learning emotional resilience as a skill is quite fascinating. But it'll be an open discussion so that we'll be able to hear his story and then ask questions. So wonderful opportunity. Please join us in that. There's a compassion circle on Saturday. Paul, please, talk to us about getting your events up on the calendar. We'd love to have those energy, anything to raise the vibe of the tribe. Let's try to get, that going. So, and Maureen as well. Jan, I know that you and Solera are doing some events. Please consider putting those up on the calendar as well. So I appreciate you all. Much love, my friends.
Thank you all for being here again this week.
Thank
Thanks
you,
very much,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.